The scent of freshly polished pine still lingered on the desk when Amelia Hart pushed open the door, her arms filled with folders of material samples from the workshop. The house sat at the end of an elm-shaded street, its large windows pouring gentle strips of afternoon light across oak floors, as if honey had been spilled there. Amelia herself had designed this corner. Shelves stretching across the wall, a thick chestnut armchair, and a wide desk big enough to hold all her sketches. Everything was arranged so neatly it could have been mistaken for unoccupied. Amelia was the kind of person who only felt at ease when things rested in their proper place. To be pencils in the blue ceramic cup, the measuring tape tucked beside the fabric swatches, mood boards stacked into thin, precise piles with edges aligned. Her phone buzzed. A message from the hospital. Bone graft successful. I'll be home late. Daniel Hart, her husband, was an orthopedic trauma surgeon, a name spoken with both reverence and trust. He belonged to a world apart. The glaring lights of operating theaters, bone saws cutting with millimeter precision, walking into surgery as if onto a battlefield with only victory or failure. Whenever he spoke of a patient who could walk again after an accident, his eyes lit with the brilliance of 1,000 tiny stars. Amelia loved that light, loved how he would pull out his phone and proudly show before and after X-rays like miracles, captured on film. She set the folders down, hung her coat on the hook, and stepped into the bedroom. The closet door stood ajar. The faint, clean fragrance of soap clung to Daniel's white shirts. Pulling the laundry basket closer, she smoothed the quilt while reminding herself to stop by the carpenter shop tomorrow to check a client's kitchen counter. Small tasks stitched a day together. Repetition was reassuring. At least, she believed so. On Daniel's nightstand lay his gray cloth-bound notebook, its edges worn from brushing against his leather briefcase. Amelia often saw him writing in its surgery schedules, patient names, follow-up reminders. It was simply a work tool, like his surgical loupes or protective goggles. But today, as she lifted one of his shirts, the hem brushed the notebook, knocking it open. A page lay exposed, his familiar slanted handwriting across it. 8 p.m. La Meridienne window table. A meeting, she thought. Probably a colleague or a visiting lecturer. Nothing unusual. Yet her eyes lingered. Beneath the line, one name was underlined in blue ink. Clara. The name spun in her mind like a tiny top. Clara. Where had she heard it? A hospital fundraiser? Perhaps a business card. Amelia snapped the book shut, ready to set it back, but the silken threads of curiosity tightened around her fingers. The next page held a string of short notes. Daniel's private shorthand, the kind she recognized from his frantic scribbles. During night shifts, meet Clara, 7:30 string lights. An arrow pointed to the margin. Private corner. Beside it, a small heart and an exclamation mark, so small. Yet it dropped into her chest like a pebble into water, sending ripples outward. Amelia sank onto the bed's edge, shirt still in hand, her heartbeat stumbling. Stay calm, she told herself. Daniel jotted random things all the time. String lights might be decor in a new restaurant he wanted to try. She gave a dry laugh that cut itself short. Daniel never drew hearts. He was the kind of man who forgot their anniversary. Too practical for symbols, Clara. The name unlocked a hidden shelf in memory. At the winter fundraiser, woman with glossy black waves of hair, deep red lips, and a sapphire velvet dress that hugged her figure. She had stood beside a reserved man with wire-rimmed glasses and a face still as a lake. Professor Nathaniel Cole, chair of literature at the City University. Amelia remembered Daniel leaning forward with polished charm, pouring Clara wine, recounting a rare surgery. She had noticed something then, a flicker of glances exchanged. But the lights were soft, the music elegant. And Amelia had dismissed it. She laid the shirt aside and reopened the notebook. Her fingers turned the pages cautiously, as if afraid to make a sound. Another line, Clara Espresso, Maple. Street Cafe Sidan Schulfen, a thin receipt was tucked inside La Meridienne. 2 portions of seared salmon, white wine. Daniel's pen had circled a scrawled note. Next time, same table. The ink slightly faded. The handwriting playful. There were countless innocent reasons. Project collaborations. Hospital fundraising, charity initiatives. All plausible. But the little heart drawn in the margin did not fit the category of innocent. The way a surgeon so meticulous could let slip something so soft into his schedule spoke another language. Amelia pulled out her phone. Thumb moved automatically. Instagram search. Typing at Clara brought several results, but she recognized her instantly. Red lips. Velvet dress, martini glass tipped toward the light. Public profile. The feed cascaded like postcards. Summer coastlines, concert halls, cafe windows strung with golden bulb string lights. Beneath one photo was the caption, "To the corners, where we can hear our own heartbeat." Amelia's own heart skipped. She lifted her head. On the bedroom wall hung 2 paintings she'd chosen when they moved in, a narrow European street with rusted balconies and an abstract canvas of beige, brown, and indigo. Quiet tones like Amelia's reserved words. She had always thought her marriage resembled this room, unshowy but solid. No one marvels at a beige wall, yet it holds a life's gallery. And somewhere, someone was stringing fairy lights across. Her quiet wall scattering sparks where none belonged. A text pinged. Finished surgery, stopping by the store. Need anything? Daniel, like every day. Same tone, practical, caring, restrained. Amelia glanced from the screen to the notebook. 2 parallel worlds so close they almost touched, yet stubbornly apart. She typed almond milk and a few lemons, please. Thank you. Then slid the phone down, closed the notebook, and returned it precisely to its place. Her fingers trembled. Faintly, a vibration no one could see. In the closet mirror, her reflection stared back. Dark brown eyes, long lashes. Skin pale with a shadow like the aftermath of a fever. She walked to her studio, sat at her desk, opened her sketchbook. Pencil touched paper, yet not a single line would come. Her architect's mind always built structures, columns, beams, walls. Cause and effect. Even suspicion arranged itself like a diagram. If there was a crack, you located it, measured its width, found its cause load or material. Covering it was not repairing. Sometimes, to save a house, you had to knock on hollow walls to hear how deep the emptiness went. Amelia reached for a white envelope and wrote in small. Steady script. Clara La Meridienne, 8 p.m., window table. She slipped in. The receipt, a slip of paper with string lights, and photographed each piece with her phone. Everything stored in its own folder. No fury, no tears, only cataloging, classifying, naming. When a beam showed strain, an engineer braced it temporarily, collected more data, and prepared alternatives. She told herself so. The ache in her chest quieted to a dull throb. The door opened. Daniel came in, grocery bag in one hand, coat in the other. Rain still clung to his hair. I got the almond milk. You're still up? He leaned down to kiss her temple, a familiar gesture. It brought with it a cascade of memories. Little trips, Sunday breakfasts, his hand clasping hers the day they moved in. The past poured down like a sudden shower. I'm reviewing sketches, Amelia answered evenly. She watched him put items in the fridge, arranging them on the right shelf, as always. Do you have an early shift tomorrow? Yeah, 7 a.m. But I should be free by evening, he said, closing the fridge, turning with a smile. I was thinking of taking you to that new place on Platt Street tomorrow. They say it's beautiful string lights everywhere. String lights. The words struck like stones. Amelia's smile was faint, perfectly believable. Sure, let me check my schedule. She reached out to turn off the lamp, letting the room sink into the soft darkness of an inhabited house, warm and calm, like a long embrace. Somewhere in that night, a hairline fracture crept along plaster, unheard, unseen. But Amelia already knew. And as with every blueprint she'd ever drawn, she would chart her own, measure, mark, and wait for daylight to strike the first blow. Sunday morning sunlight filtered through the curtains, scattering golden streaks across the wooden floor. Amelia rose early, as she always had since her apprentice days at the carpentry shop. The quieter the hours, the sharper her focus. But today, instead of finishing a client's living room design, she opened her laptop and wandered through social media feeds like someone searching for clues. The cup of coffee at her side cooled untouched. The name Clara was no longer vague. After only a few clicks, Amelia found her profile. Photos gleamed with light and luxury. Charity galas, a Santorini holiday, elaborate dishes arranged in fine restaurants. Clara's face shone, her smile half hidden, half performed, her eyes always aware of the lens. In many photos, the man beside her was more backdrop than subject. Silvering hair, thin-rimmed glasses, a modest suit. 15 years of marriage. With my soulmate, Clara captioned a champagne toast. That man was Professor Nathaniel Cole. Memory struck. The hospital's winter fundraiser last year. Amelia had seen Clara then in a deep sapphire gown. The man at her side had been the renowned literature professor at City University, a frequent presence in the press for his research and teaching on the classics, though notoriously private outside the lecture hall. Nathaniel quiet, deliberate, the opposite of his wife's stage-lit presence. Amelia remembered Daniel introducing them, then laughing with Clara longer than necessary. At the time, it had been just another fleeting detail lost in the buzz of the evening. Now those fragments joined into a picture she dreaded to see. She picked up her phone and opened the photos she had taken of Daniel's notebook the night before. La Meridian 2, 8 o'clock window table. Clara. It matched the captions beneath Clara's own posts. La Meridian, our secret spot. The photo had been uploaded less than 2 weeks ago, a golden-lit corner of the restaurant, Martini. Glass tilted, Clara leaning forward. Daniel might well have been behind the camera. Amelia drew a slow, steady breath. It wasn't difficult to connect the dots. No need for wild guesses. Yet her nature had never allowed her to act on feelings alone. An architect doesn't just see. Cracks with her eye. She measures depth, width, calculates load. So she decided she needed more evidence. That afternoon, Daniel came home, cheerful after his shift. He recounted a complex case, how his team managed in the operating room. Amelia listened, nodded, asked the occasional question. She betrayed nothing. In the kitchen, he even washed the dishes, a rare gesture that once would have touched her. Now it only seemed hollow. Every kindness felt like a fresh coat of paint concealing a wall already rotting inside. That night, while Daniel went to bed early, Amelia stayed in her study. She opened a new envelope and slipped inside printed screenshots of Clara's Instagram posts, along with Daniel's notes she had photographed. She labeled each sheet with dates and places, meticulous as if preparing documents for an inspection. Then she did something even she found strange. She researched Nathaniel Cole, a literature professor, Harvard PhD, countless papers on Shakespeare and classical works. But beyond academia, he ran a small photography website, street corners, old architecture, quiet landscapes. So different from his austere image at the podium. Beneath that reserved exterior lived an artist's eye. What stunned Amelia was the feeling in those photos. Depth, stillness, sincerity. This man, she realized, is being betrayed too. The thought clenched her chest. Not pity, but the recognition of an uncanny parallel. Two strangers, deceived by the people they trusted most. Night deepened. Daniel stirred in his sleep, an arm reaching unconsciously toward her. Amelia pressed herself against the edge of the mattress, eyes wide in the dark. She knew she couldn't stay silent forever. But confront Daniel directly. He would deny, deflect, make it her paranoia. She refused to stage that scene. No, her path would be different. Daniel and Clara would expose themselves, and they would not be able to deny it. The next morning, after Daniel left for work, Amelia sat at her computer and drafted a new email. She had found the address on Nathaniel's photography website, n.cole@universitycity.edu. Subject line: Important information. Please read privately. She typed slowly, each word heavy as stone. Dear Professor Cole, my name is Amelia Hart, wife of Dr. Daniel Hart. I have reason to believe that my husband and your wife, Clara, have been involved in an extramarital affair. For several months, I have evidence. If you are willing to listen, please meet me at the Riverside Bookstore Cafe on Maple Street. This Tuesday at 3 p.m., I will be wearing a blue scarf. This is not a joke. I wish I were wrong, but sadly, I am not Amelia Hart. The cursor blinked, waiting. At last, she pressed send. The message flew into the ether, leaving silence in its wake. Amelia closed the laptop and laid her palm flat on the cool desk. Inside, her chest, fear and resolve twisted together. She had crossed a line. There was no turning back. The Riverside Bookstore Cafe nestled on Maple Street between weathered shops with faded red-tiled roofs. Amelia had chosen it because it was crowded enough to hide them, yet quiet enough to talk. Dark wooden shelves lined the walls, the smell of coffee mingling with the scent of old paper. On this March afternoon, sunlight filtered through the windows onto a small round table where Amelia sat. A blue scarf wrapped around her neck like a secret signal. The clock's hands crept toward 3. Each time the door opened, her heart jumped. She cradled a cappuccino, though her lips hadn't touched it. She wondered if Nathaniel would actually come, or dismiss her email as the hysterics of a jealous wife. But when the clock struck exactly 3, a tall figure entered. Simple gray suit, neatly combed silver hair, and deep blue eyes behind thin-rimmed glasses. Nathaniel Cole. He paused at the door, scanning the room until his gaze landed on the flash of blue at her throat. Unhurried, he crossed the cafe with the measured pace of someone approaching a lecture podium. Mrs. Hart. His voice was low. Steady Don. Amelia nodded, hiding trembling hands beneath the table. Thank you for coming, she said, her voice soft but clear. Nathaniel took the seat opposite her, removed his glasses, and set them neatly on the table. He wasted no time. Your letter was troubling. You spoke of Clara and your husband. A brief silence. Then Amelia slid a brown envelope toward him. Inside were printouts, Instagram photos, pages from Daniel's notebook, restaurant receipts. I found these. I wish I were wrong, but everything points in the same direction. Nathaniel quietly opened the envelope, studying each sheet. His face didn't change, only his fingers tightened slightly around his glasses. His eyes moved slowly, like a lawyer examining evidence. When he closed the envelope, he looked up. 6 months, it seems it's been going on that long. Tone was calm, but heavy as stone. Amelia bit her lip, guilty for intruding into another man's private devastation. I'm sorry. I know it's hard to accept, but you deserve to know the truth. He leaned back, eyes steady on her, not suspicious, but weighing. And why tell me? Most would confront their spouse in private. Amelia swallowed, forcing her gaze to hold his. Because in private, he can deny it. Twist the truth, make it my paranoia. I want them to face the consequences openly. And you have the right to know. We are both the betrayed. A pause. Then, Nathaniel gave a slow nod. You have a plan, don't you? Amelia drew in a deep breath. Yes, I want you to join me. They have a dinner planned this Thursday at La Meridian. Reserved a table right beside their usual one. If you agree, we'll arrive first. They'll have to face us. His brows lifted, a thin smile touching his lips, not amusement, but recognition. You think ahead, but have you considered what comes after? After we expose them? Amelia faltered. She hadn't. In her mind was only the image of Daniel and Clara, frozen in shame. But beyond that divorced property, scandal she hadn't dared imagine, Nathaniel folded his hands, fingers laced. I study literature. And in every tragedy, the climax is not the only thing that matters. What follows is crucial. We must preserve evidence for divorce proceedings, and the confrontation must remain composed. If we lose control, we become the spectacle. Amelia looked at him, and calmness seeped into her veins. Where she trembled, Nathaniel was an anchor. You're right. I've let emotions get the better of me. He tilted his head. No, you have courage. That I respect. But to turn courage into outcome, you need reason. And I can help. Silence stretched, broken only by the sound of a book page turning at the next table. Finally, Amelia asked, her voice barely above a whisper, You'll stand with me. Nathaniel lifted his black coffee, sipped, and set it down. His blue eyes glinted with resolve. I will. But we do it with control. Calm, certain, leaving them no chance to deny. Relief eased Amelia's shoulders for the first time since. Discovering the truth, she didn't feel alone. Before leaving, Nathaniel pulled a card from his wallet, scribbling an address to another restaurant on the back. Tonight, 7 o'clock. Meet me there. We'll discuss details. If we are allies, we must understand each other better. Amelia took the card, her heart both racing and afraid. She nodded. All right. Tonight. Nathaniel rose, offered a polite nod, and left. Only when the door closed behind him did Amelia realize her palms were damp with sweat. She pressed the card against her skin, sensing a new chapter opening, one she never imagined she would write in her own life. Bellini sat at the end of the old street, its tall glass windows reflecting golden light onto the cobblestone sidewalk. Inside, the space was warm, a piano murmuring softly from the corner. Amelia stepped in, wearing a simple beige knit dress, the blue scarf draped lightly over her shoulders. Her heart beat faster than usual, not only because of tonight's meeting, but because she felt she was crossing into unfamiliar territory, where every word might decide which way everything would turn. Nathaniel was already at the table, posture straight, hands resting on a half-closed menu. He wore a white shirt and a light gray blazer, less formal than that afternoon at the bookstore cafe, but still carrying his usual composure. When Amelia approached, he rose and pulled out her chair. Thank you for coming. I know this isn't easy. We're in this together. Call me Amelia, she replied, taking her seat. The waiter poured 2 glasses of red wine. Nathaniel lifted his, meeting her eyes. To the truth, however painful it may be. To the truth, Amelia whispered, clinking his glass. They began to speak of the plan. Amelia pulled out a typed packet listing details. Times, locations, seating arrangements. Nathaniel scanned it, nodding. You really are an architect. Every detail considered. Just have it. I can't stand looseness. He smiled briefly, softening his gaze. Then, let's add a few more pillars to this blueprint. He pointed to the pages. First, we must sit where we can see the entrance. When they walk in, we'll already be there. They won't be able to turn away. Second, We need a reliable server, someone who won't let them switch tables or slip away. Oh. The manager at La Méridionale arranged it third. And most important, we stay calm. No shouting, no tears. Just the truth laid bare. If we lose control, they'll spin it into a jealous scene, make us look weak. But if we stay composed, their shame will show itself. Amelia listened, jotting notes into her plan. Reason felt like steel beams bracing her trembling emotions. "Then what do we say first?" she asked. Nathaniel set down his glass, folding his hands. "I'll begin. Address them by name and congratulate them on their romantic dinner. Then you can present the evidence. I want them to know we don't just suspect we have everything. And how do you think they'll react?" Betrayal usually triggers 3 responses: denial, anger, blame. They'll try to turn it on us, but we won't give them the chance. Amelia drew a sharp breath. If Daniel begs forgiveness, says it was a mistake, do you want to forgive him? Nathaniel asked plainly. Silence. In it, memories surged. Their wedding day. Weekend trips, his hand holding hers in the hospital waiting room during her father's heart surgery. Beautiful mosaics. Then she remembered the tiny heart in the notebook. The look Daniel had given Clara at the fundraiser, a blade slicing through every picture. "No," she said at last, "I can't." Nathaniel nodded, offering no judgment. His silence was affirmation enough. The waiter brought plates of pasta, basil fragrance filling the air. They ate quietly for a while, letting the plan settle into their thoughts. When Nathaniel set down his fork, he continued, "Amelia, after that night, everything will change. Divorce, property, reputation. Are you ready?" "I've thought about it. I'll hire an attorney. I won't live in illusion any longer." "Good. I'll begin proceedings too. At least neither of us will be alone." The words touched a tender place in Amelia. Since sending that email, the weight on her shoulders had somehow lightened because now someone else walked the thorny path beside her. They weren't allies by choice, but by circumstance. And in that unwilling bond, there was something strangely binding. When dinner ended, Nathaniel walked her to the door. Night had fallen, Maple Street glowing with lights. He stopped, looking. "At her Thursday evening, 7:30. We'll be at La Méridionale. Are you certain?" Amelia gripped her handbag, drawing in the biting air. "I'm certain. It's time they knew the truth." Nathaniel nodded. For a moment, he seemed about to add something, but only inclined his head instead, his gaze solemn and heavy. "Then, until then," Amelia walked away, her heels tapping softly against stone. Her heart still raced, but it was no longer the shaky panic of the afternoon. It was the steady rhythm of someone bracing for an earthquake, knowing the ground would shake, but ready to stand tall when it did. The car stopped in front of La Méridionale. Golden light spilled across the marble steps, reflecting off the silhouettes of people coming and going. Amelia drew a deep breath, her grip on the handbag strap so tight her knuckles whitened. Beside her, Nathaniel opened the door, moving with the calm assurance of a man heading into a lecture, not a confrontation that could append their lives. He inclined his head, offering his hand. "Are you ready?" Amelia nodded faintly. "I'm ready." Inside, the restaurant glowed with elegance, crystal chandeliers scattering soft light across the room. Leather chairs and polished tables stood spaced far enough for privacy. A waiter approached with a smile. "Mr. Cole, your table is prepared." Amelia startled. Nathaniel had booked ahead. He only smiled. "I said I'd handle the logistics." They were shown to a table against a mirrored wall, facing the entrance. Just as Amelia hoped, the familiar private table sat beside them, Daniel and Clara's usual corner. Barely an arm's length apart, close enough that every word, every expression, would be impossible to escape. The waiter poured sparkling wine, set down menus. Nathaniel lifted his glass, voice low and steady. Remember, we are not here to fight. We are here to shine light on what they tried to hide. Amelia touched her glass to his. Her palms were damp, but her voice held firm. Light can't be extinguished. They feigned casual conversation. Nathaniel asked about her latest project. Amelia described color palettes and textures, though her mind never left the door. 7:58, 7:59. Her heart hammered. The door opened. Daniel entered. Charcoal suit, silver tie, leather briefcase in hand. He checked his watch, then scanned the room. Light struck his familiar face, the same face that had been her safe harbor through 12 years of marriage. Amelia clenched the chair arm to steady herself. The manager led him straight to the corner table. He sat, scrolling his phone, a faint smile on his lips. That smile cut through Amelia. It had been so long since she'd seen it directed at her. "Wait a few minutes," Nathaniel murmured. She nodded, her eyes fixed on Daniel's hand, tapping an absent rhythm against the table. Like music, waiting for a partner. 8:10. The door opened again. Clara appeared. Tall, black waves cascading over her shoulders, a satin sapphire dress gleaming under the lights. She walked with the poise of someone who believed the whole room was her stage. When Daniel rose to greet her, his eyes lit up. His hands slid around her waist with ease. They shared a quick kiss, brief, but enough to crush Amelia's chest. Nathaniel's eyes didn't flicker. He set down his glass. "Now," he said. They both rose. The scrape of chairs drew Daniel and Clara's gaze. A suspended moment, 4 pairs of eyes locked. Daniel's face drained of color. Clara froze, her hand still in his. "Daniel," Amelia said, her voice steadier than she thought possible. "What a surprise to see you here." "Kath," he stammered, catching himself when he saw Nathaniel at her side. "Good evening." "Clara," Nathaniel said, voice deep and cold. Quite the coincidence, isn't it? The air at their tables stretched taut as a violin string. A few diners began to glance over. Daniel forced a brittle smile. "Perhaps we should talk privately." "Privately?" Amelia tilted her head. "Like all the private meetings you and Clara have had for the past 6 months." Clara tried to hold composure, flashing a social smile. "Amelia, Nathaniel, you've misunderstood?" "Misunderstood," Nathaniel cut in. He pulled an envelope from his coat and dropped it on their table. Messages, receipts, dates. How much misunderstanding requires evidence this clear? Daniel reached for Amelia's hand, voice pleading. "Please, let me explain." She pulled away, eyes cold. "There's nothing left to explain. You chose betrayal." "I chose to make you face it openly," Clara snapped at Nathaniel. "You spied on me. That's my privacy." "Privacy doesn't exist when you turn marriage into a lie," he answered, his blue eyes blazing. Nearby diners had fallen silent, their attention fixed on the 4 of them. No raised voices, no slammed fists. Just the composure of Amelia and Nathaniel made the truth ring louder at last. Amelia opened her handbag and laid a white envelope before Daniel. "Divorce papers. Tomorrow you'll receive them officially. But I wanted to hand them to you, Herat, the very place you met her." Daniel's hands shook as he touched the envelope. His eyes flickered with fear and regret. But it was too late. Nathaniel placed his own envelope before Clara. "Evelyn once gave me a second chance. Clara, you did not. From this moment, there's nothing left between us." Clara's face blanched, her polished smile collapsing. Anger flared in her eyes. In a sudden motion, she flung her wineglass, crimson spilling across the white tablecloth like blood spreading in snow. The crash rippled through the restaurant, followed by murmurs. Amelia didn't flinch. She stood tall, head high. "It's Done. Nathaniel extended his hand, not forceful, only steady, an offer of support. Amelia placed her hand in his, and together they turned and walked away amid the hushed stir of onlookers. Behind them, Daniel and Clara's voices rose, blaming each other, but it no longer concerned them. Outside, the night wind bit with cold. Amelia shivered, but Nathaniel's hand at her elbow steadied her. "Are you all right?" he asked quietly. "Not yet," she exhaled. "But at least I've seen the truth with my own eyes." On the street, the lamps cast long pools of light. Their footsteps echoed in the dark, marking a new chapter, one where both had severed the past and the future remained unwritten. The next morning, rain hammered the awning, its steady roar drowning the chime of the wind bells outside the window. Amelia sat on the bed of a modest downtown hotel, her hair damp from the shower. She couldn't go back to the house where Daniel still lingered, not after the night when everything had been laid bare. Her phone screen glowed, 12 unread messages, all from Daniel. "Catherine, please. We need to talk. You misunderstood. Clara and I will end things. Don't make this public. 12 years of marriage. Don't throw it away for one mistake." Amelia gave a weary, bitter laugh. Mistake? 6 months of deceit, countless dinners, whispered plans for a future with another woman shrunk into 2 words. A mistake. She turned the screen off and tossed the phone onto the bed. No reply. There was nothing left to say. By noon, she returned home to collect a few essentials. Daniel's car sat in the garage. She hesitated, then went in. The air was stifling stale coffee mingled with the damp smell of shirts hanging on the chair. Daniel stood waiting in the living room, shirt half buttoned, eyes red from a sleepless night. "Catherine," he began, as if saying her name might reset time. "I'm just here to pick up my things." "Don't say anything else," Amelia replied, her tone flat, dry. He stepped closer, hand trembling. "I made a mistake, but we can fix this. Counseling, maybe? You used to love me. You can't just walk away." She looked into those familiar eyes. For a moment, a part of her wanted to believe, to rewind to their quiet, steady past. But then the memory struck his notebook. The careless heart sketched on a page. The kiss he'd pressed to Clara's lips the night before. A stab in her chest hardened her resolve. "No, Daniel, you threw it all away. I'm only acknowledging the truth." She picked up her suitcase and headed for the stairs. Behind her, Daniel's voice cracked. "You've changed. You and Cole, theirs. Something isn't there. I saw the way you looked at each other last night. You betrayed me first, didn't you?" Amelia froze mid-step, her heart pounding. In all their years together, Daniel had never stooped this low. She turned back, eyes sharp. "Don't turn your guilt into an excuse to smear me. Nathaniel has nothing to do with this. He's just like me's, someone who's been betrayed." Daniel fell silent, his face ashen. For the first time, Amelia saw. No confidence, no pride in his eyes, only emptiness. That afternoon, Amelia went to a small cafe by the park. Nathaniel was already there, 2 black coffees waiting. He rose when she entered, courteous as always. "Are you all right?" asked, his eyes scanning her carefully. "All right feels too far away," Amelia sighed, taking her seat. "I'm exhausted, but at least I'm no longer blind." Nathaniel nodded. "Clara, too." She cried, then raged, then calculated the assets. "I've moved into my study. Divorce is inevitable." They sat in silence, listening to the rain dripping. From the awning, Amelia cupped her coffee, warmth seeping into her hands. She lifted her gaze to Nathaniel. His deep blue eyes were calm, like a still lake. "Sometimes I wonder, did we do the right thing, exposing them so publicly?" she whispered. He tilted his head, thoughtful. "In Greek tragedy, the truth is always dragged into the light. As it may be, that's what frees us. I don't regret it. Do you? Amelia was silent for a while. Then she shook her head. No, I don't regret it. At least I reclaimed the truth for myself. Their eyes met, the silence between them thick. Not romantic, but the thread of a strange alliance. Two abandoned souls standing against deception. That night, Amelia returned to her hotel room. The city lay beneath a veil of drizzle. She opened her laptop and typed the first lines for the boutique. Hotel projects she had long dreamed of, but never dared to start. Sketches appeared on the screen, tentative, unsteady, but alive. A notification pinged, an email from Nathaniel. Thank you for today. I know we are both walking across broken ground. But at least, we are not walking alone. Amelia read it again, and again, her hand pressing to her chest. For the first time in weeks, the pain no longer swallowed everything. Amid the aftershocks, a tiny seed had been planted, not yet knowing what it might grow into, but certain of one thing: it was real. A week passed after that night at La Meridian. Amelia told herself she was settling into a new rhythm. Mornings at the design studio, evenings at the small hotel she'd rented by the month, nights spent reading or sketching. But inside, she hadn't found peace. Daniel's text sent, deleted, sent again the curious glances of colleagues. And, above all, the unanswered questions about the future weighed heavily. Was she truly moving in the right direction? On Thursday afternoon, just as she finished a client meeting, her phone buzzed. An unfamiliar number, international code flashing on the screen. She hesitated, then answered, Amelia Hart. A woman's voice, gentle but sharp, came across the line. Yes, this is she. My name is Evelyn Winters. Perhaps Nathaniel has mentioned me. I am his ex-wife. Amelia froze. Her breath caught as if a hand had tightened around her chest. Evelyn. The name Clara had once dropped, laced with veiled warnings. Why are you calling me? Amelia asked slowly. Because I think you deserve the truth. Evelyn sighed. Nathaniel seems to have become a pillar for you. But before you place your full trust in him, you need to hear me out. Amelia's hand clamped around the armrest of her chair, her eyes fixed on the wood grain. I'm listening. We once loved each other deeply, Evelyn began. But Nathaniel had a need to control. At first, it seemed harmless, suggesting what job I should take, which friends were suitable, what clothes were appropriate. But gradually, it became an invisible cage. I felt my own voice slipping away. Amelia bit her lip. A part of her wanted to hang up, but curiosity, or was it fear, kept her there. He called it care. But care is not the same as control. Spiraled, had to see a doctor. And yet, the story became his version, that I was fragile, unstable. Evelyn's voice quivered. I left to save myself. And you expect me to believe all this? Amelia whispered. I don't ask you to believe me right away. I only ask you to stay alert. Don't let him define your happiness. I'm calling. Because I know what it feels like to be steered without realizing it's until it's too late. A long silence stretched. Finally, Amelia said quietly, Thank you for telling me. I'll think about it. When the call ended, her heart sank like stone. The image of Nathaniel, the calm, steady man, her ally in betrayals, suddenly blurred with mist. Was he truly different from Daniel? Or simply another form of deception, more refined, more dangerous? That evening, Amelia didn't return to the hotel. Instead, she stopped at the Riverside Bookstore Cafe. She chose a corner seat, trying to gather herself. Moments later, the door opened and Nathaniel stepped in. He looked tired, his face lined with strain, but his eyes lit when they found her. Amelia, he greeted warmly. I suppose you've been working late again. She nodded faintly, then decided not to circle around. Nathaniel, I received a call. From Evelyn. He froze. His gaze darkened. He sank into the chair opposite, exhaling heavily. I suspected she might reach out to you. She said you used to control everything. That she left because she couldn't bear it. Is that true? Amelia asked. Steady Nathaniel was silent for a long while, weighing his words. Finally, he spoke, voice low. There's some truth in it. I was younger, overconfident. I thought I knew what was best. Evelyn was fragile, and instead of lifting her up, I unknowingly turned care into chains. I lost her because of my blindness. Amelia's chest tightened. The candid admission was frightening, yet strangely believable. And now? She asked that Nathaniel laid a hand on the table, fingertips brushing the book he'd brought. Now I've learned to listen. With Clara, I chose silence too often. With you, I don't want to repeat either mistake. I don't want to control, nor stand aside. I only want to walk beside you if you allow it. His eyes held hers, not pressing, not pleading, just an honest waiting. Amelia swallowed hard. Fear and trust wrestled within her. But then memory stirred the night at La Meridian. Him standing by her side, calm and unwavering, so she wasn't alone. She couldn't see the future clearly, but she knew what she needed in this moment. I can't give you an answer yet, she whispered, but I won't walk away. At the very least, I want to know who you truly are. Nathaniel nodded, a weary but gentle smile flickering. That's enough. Everything must begin with truth. However uncomfortable, it is the only foundation strong enough to build on. Amelia looked at him, realizing for the first time the road ahead might still be thick with shadows, but at least they had chosen to walk in the light of truth. In the days following their talk about the past, Amelia carried a strange mix of relief and unease. Relief that Nathaniel had admitted the truth. Unease because she still wasn't sure she could truly place her trust. She buried herself in work, as if to fill the emptiness. The boutique hotel design was refined down to the smallest detail, yet every time her pencil touched paper, the calm blue gaze of Nathaniel surfaced in her mind. On Saturday afternoon, a short message arrived. Photo. Exhibition this weekend at the Museum of Art. A few of my works are on display. If you'd like, I'd be honored to take you through. And Amelia stared at the screen, her heart giving a quick tremor. Nathaniel, professor, a man so reserved, yet behind the lens, he had a world of his own. After a few seconds of hesitation, she typed back, I'll come. 3 p.m. The museum was quiet, natural light spilling down through skylights onto the photographs lining the halls. Nathaniel waited by the entrance. No suit, no tie, only a pale shirt and a fabric jacket. His smile when he saw her was unforced, unguarded. Thank you for coming, Amelia. Thank you for inviting me. I'm curious how the serious professor sees the world through a lens. Nathaniel chuckled softly, gesturing ahead. This way. They walked past each frame together, an old bridge at sunset, a narrow street glowing with neon, a boy laughing in the rain. Each photo held something ineffable, both raw and aching. Amelia lingered longest before a picture of a winter lake. Still water, a lone wooden bench by the shore. Beautiful, but sad. She whispered. I took that after Evelyn left, Nathaniel admitted, voice low. That's when I realized some emptiness can't be reasoned away. You can only sit beside it and accept it. Amelia turned to him. Not a cold, controlling man, but a soul bearing fractures. And somehow, those fractures made him real. More human. Quietly, she said, I'm learning to accept emptiness too. Perhaps that's what we share, he replied, his eyes softening. After the exhibition, they stopped at a small cafe, ordered coffee and apple tart. Through the glass, they watched golden leaves drift down in the park. Amelia set her cup down, hesitating. "Nathaniel, I've thought a lot about what Evelyn said. I'm afraid of falling into control again." He was silent for a moment, then nodded. "Your fear is valid, and I can't expect you to erase it with a few promises. All I can do is prove it through my actions. If I ever go too far, call me out. Directly. No holding back." Amelia blinked, surprised. "You really want me to do that? I need you too. It's the only way I can change. And you deserve freedom, even if we choose to walk together." 4. The first time, Amelia felt a wall inside her crack open. She smiled faintly. "Then let's try, but slowly." "Slow is good," Nathaniel agreed. The things most worth having never come quickly. In the days that followed, small but unmistakable changes appeared. Nathaniel no longer sent long emails full of detailed advice. Instead, just brief texts. "How was work today?" or "Don't forget dinner." Amelia replied simply too. But beneath it was a new sense of safety. Late one night, her phone rang. Nathaniel's voice was slightly rushed. "Forgive the hour. I'm still at the university library, and it's pouring. I remembered you once said you hate the rain." Amelia smiled, glancing out at the sheets of water streaking her hotel window. "I hate it when I have to face it alone. But hearing you, now it doesn't feel so bad." Silence lingered at both ends. Then Nathaniel's quiet laugh. "Amelia, thank you for giving me the chance to walk beside you." She closed her eyes, and for the first time in months, her heart wasn't heavy only with betrayal, but warmed by something gentler. "Thank you for being patient with me." By the weekend, Amelia invited Nathaniel to see the temporary apartment she had just rented in a small neighborhood. Not large, but bright, with white walls and a few green plants. As he stepped in, he looked around approvingly. "Simple, but warm. It reflects you." Amelia laughed. "You promised not to analyze me anymore." "I'm not analyzing. I'm admiring," Nathaniel replied. So genuine she couldn't answer. They sat side by side on the sofa, close enough that warmth bridged the space. Amelia turned, eyes meeting his. No words passed between them, but in that silence she felt it clearly. Trust was beginning to grow. Not perfect, not certain, but real. Outside, leaves spiraled down in the wind. Inside, two broken souls sat together, learning to place the first stones of a new bridge. October arrived, and the city slipped into autumn. The trees outside Amelia's apartment blazed yellow, leaves falling in waves to blanket the sidewalks like a carpet. In the gentle light, she felt more at peace than she had in months. She and Nathaniel were in no hurry, just simple companionship. Weekend coffees. Long talks about books. A few times when he helped her hang paintings in her new place. A rare calm after the chaos. But peace is always fragile. One afternoon, as Amelia reviewed blueprints for a project, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Don't trust Nathaniel too quickly. He never really changes. I have proof. If you want to know, meet me at Barrow's, 7 p.m. tonight. Alone, Clara." Amelia froze, heat rushing to her face. Teased Laratha. Woman who had stolen Daniel into shadows was reaching for her now. Her first instinct was to delete the message, but curiosity, mingled with unease, stilled her hand. Barrow's was a dim little bar, heavy with the smell of wood smoke. Clara was already at a corner table, red dress clinging tight, makeup carefully drawn. When Amelia entered, Clara smirked. "Amelia Hart, I didn't think you'd actually come." Amelia sat across from her, voice steady. "Say what you came." "To say I don't have much time." Clara swirled her wine glass, tone sweet but edged. "Do you realize you're repeating history?" Nathaniel was the same with Evelyn. Gentle at first, then slowly caging her with invisible rules. Amelia frowned. "This is the second time I've heard that." The first from Evelyn herself, and Nathaniel admitted his mistakes. Told me. He's changed. Clara laughed, a sharp, shrill sound cutting through the bar's hum. Changed? You're naive. Nathaniel is a master at convincing women they're free while quietly steering every choice they make. Do you have proof? Amelia's voice turned cold. Clara pulled an envelope from her bag and slid it across. A few emails between Nathaniel and the board. He's maneuvering to preserve his reputation, painting himself as the wronged husband, while leaving me the sole adulteress. Calculated through and through. Amelia opened it. Inside were printouts of emails in which Nathaniel discussed the divorce with colleagues, stressing the need to maintain stability for the university. And for Sophia, nothing explicitly slandered Clara. Yet the clinical language made Amelia's chest sink. What do you want from me? Amelia asked. Only a warning, Clara replied, her voice lower now. Don't think you're different. Sooner or later, Nathaniel will write you into the story he wants to tell. Amelia clenched the envelope and rose. Thank you for the performance, but I'll decide based on truth, not poison. She walked away, leaving Clara smirking, as if satisfied she had planted a seed of doubt. That night, Amelia couldn't sleep. The envelope lay on the table, its pages staring back. Was Nathaniel truly different from Daniel? Or merely more polished, better at hiding? The next morning, Nathaniel called. Amelia, tonight I'd like to take you and Sophia to dinner. She just got home from school. I think it's time you met her. Amelia hesitated. The invitation carried weight, an act of trust, opening the circle that mattered most. Yet Clara's words still echoed. Don't think you're different, Amelia. Nathaniel's voice was gentle. She drew a deep breath, pushing against the dark cloud overhead. Yes, I'll come. That evening, an Italian restaurant glowed with candlelight. Sophia, 17, with soft brown hair and blue eyes, her father smiled brightly as Nathaniel introduced them. This is Amelia, very special friend. Sophia shook Amelia's hand, her eyes radiant and sincere. Dad's mentioned you often. I'm so glad to finally meet you. In that moment, Amelia felt something that couldn't be staged. Nathaniel wasn't hiding her, wasn't calculating. He was bringing her openly into his world. As dinner unfolded, Sophia laughed easily. Nathaniel listened with patient warmth, and Amelia's heart grew lighter. Yet deep inside, the envelope still pressed like a stone in her pocket, not ready to be released. Later that night, back in her apartment, Amelia opened the window to the chill of autumn air. She pressed her hand to her chest and whispered, Am I walking into the light, or stepping once more into shadow? Outside, leaves spun and fell. Inside, the fragile seed of trust within her bent under the weight of a gathering storm. Winter mornings came early, cold winds seeping through the cracks of Amelia's new apartment. On the table, the envelope with Clara's printed emails still lay there, like a blot of ink refusing to fade. For nights, she had not slept, soundly torn between the calm she'd found with Nathaniel and the fear that it was all just another mask of control today. She knew she had to decide. She couldn't keep living in the gray, half-trust, half-doubt. She sent a message. Nathaniel, we need to talk. Ashwood Park, 4 p.m., come alone. The winter park was nearly empty, bare trees lining the path, the lake glinting silver. Nathaniel was already waiting, a gray overcoat pulled close, hands in his pockets, his face serious but not tense. When Amelia approached, he offered a small, tentative smile as if silently asking, Will you leave me today? Amelia stopped in front of him, clutching the envelope. Clara gave me this. She opened it, letting him see the printed emails. She said, You're staging a play too. Protect your image. It'll all become part of your script. Nathaniel was quiet for a moment, then carefully turned the pages. Yes, these are mine. But read closely, you'll see I was only protecting the university and my daughter. I never intended to make you a pawn. I chose honesty with Sophia. And now, with you. But you could be hiding so much more. Amelia's voice cracked. Evelyn, Clara, they both said you were controlling. I can't lose myself again. Nathaniel raised his eyes, deep blue and unflinching. I was guilty. With Evelyn, I imposed. With Clara, I abandoned. I won't deny it. But since meeting you, I've learned something. If I want to walk with someone for the long haul, I must accept her as she is not the version I once imagined. He stepped a little closer, but kept enough space to let her breathe. If you want to leave, I won't stop you. Just know this, everything I've done beside you wasn't to control, but to repair for myself and for a woman who has suffered. Enough betrayal. Amelia's heart pounded. In his eyes, there was no calculation, no rush, only the weary honesty of a man who had already lost too much. What can you promise me? She whispered. Nathaniel's smile was sad, gentle. That I won't promise illusions. I can only live truthfully, day by day, so you'll see who I really am. And if ever I slip into old mistakes, I beg you say it. Don't stay silent. In that moment, Amelia felt the wall of doubt inside her begin to crack. She dropped the envelope onto the park bench. The wind caught a few pages, scattering them. Clara's poison words seemed to dissolve, replaced by a fragile but real trust. She drew a deep breath. I choose to trust, not because you're perfect, but because you're willing to face your flaws. Nathaniel no longer held back. He reached out. Amelia hesitated for a heartbeat, then placed her hand in his. The clasp was steady, not binding, simply connection. Months later, Amelia's first boutique hotel project opened. At the inauguration, Nathaniel came with Sophia. He stood off to the side, letting Amelia bask under the lights and congratulations. When their eyes met, he only gave a small nod, as if to say, I'm here, but this stage is yours. Amelia smiled. Her heart knew now love was not about control or dependence, but about standing beside one another in truth, however uncomfortable, however imperfect. When night fell, they left the event hand in hand, weaving through the crowded street. No clouds of doubt remained only to once broken souls, now learning how to rebuild trust, and for Amelia, that was the true beginning. Perhaps what lingers most from this story is not the betrayal itself, but Amelia's courage to face it and her choice to trust again. Happiness doesn't come from finding someone perfect, but from two imperfect hearts willing to walk truthfully side by side. Thank you for listening with Snail Story. If today's story touched you, leave a comment and let me know where you're tuning in from. Tando Sets. And don't forget to like and subscribe so each week we can share another heartfelt and healing story together.